Having very sensibly spent much of the winter in Australia, Galway spends more time in Europe in the summer. Innsbruck is not far from home, but he chooses to reach it direct from Ireland, where he had given a concert and gone fishing. He arrives in Innsbruck on the day of his concert to meet up with a young Italian orchestra, I Solisti Veneti. They rehearse in the Music Conservatoire.
Staccato. Okay, where I begin, pianissimo, because 2 horns, 2 oboes and 1 flute. Ridiculous orchestration of Mozart, I have to say.
Wasting no time waiting for the conductor, Claudio Scimoni, Galway jumps in to rehearse the orchestra himself.
One more time, right there. And here's solo.
Galway and Claudio Scimoni first met on a Dutch television program 15 years ago and have had a special relationship ever since.
I decided I'm not playing with any other orchestras except Claudio and the Solisti and the Württemberg Chamber Orchestra, because there's so many orchestras and everybody tell me, oh Jimmy, why don't you play with our orchestra? I think it's better to have 2 real good friends than 300 acquaintances.
Claudio Scimoni sees Galway the musician in a very different way to the image of chirpy entertainer projected by Galway himself and his publicists.
Now we're ready for you.
What has impressed me very, very much of James Galway is not what the people usually love in him. Jimmy shows himself as a man very brilliant, a great musician with an enormous technique and a beautiful sound, but somebody always very happy and a little bit superficial. What has impressed me is absolutely the contrary. Like many artists, Jimmy doesn't like to show how deep is his research and how many doubts are under his apparent assertive character. He likes to be very assertive in rehearsal to show that he's there and that everything is easy for him and the others must bow and be. And while it's not absolutely true, like the greatest artists, Jimmy deeply thinks about what he is going to do, and he's always, after having played, performed or rehearsed, he always criticizes very widely what he's doing.
Maybe they think I'm not a serious guy, but you know, you don't have to look like Herbert von Karajan to be serious. I mean, he never smiled at all, ever. He would conduct happy music with the same expression on his face as dead music. You know, it didn't matter to him if it was the Siegfried's funeral or the marriage of Figaro. Herbert always had the same. Maybe he didn't like music. I don't know, but you see, I'm a different type. I'm sort of Celtic, you know, and I enjoy the way Celtic people are. They're always happy and, you know, ready for a good time. And I think life on this planet is too short to go around like an old German philosopher. But I do take the interpretation of classical music very serious, and I think it is a serious business.
I found every time we meet again, there is something new and something very interesting and very stimulating also for somebody who is doing music with him.
Claudio, I prefer solo violins. I have a long D of interest.
Not only our personalities blend very easily, but also there is something that I can learn from him and from his evolution. Can we do your cue? Le tratta flauto.
It's a very, very impulsive orchestra, you know, in the concerts. Claudio sometimes will just say, begin this scale, pianissimo. So we make da 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 da, whereas everybody else is busy going da da da, and they've already figured it out before. Just on the spur of the moment, Claudio will say something or do something, and he's a very active conductor, and the orchestra are very active when they play together.
From all of Galway's wide-ranging repertoire, Shimoni particularly approves of his approach to the composers of the Baroque period in the 17th and 18th centuries.
The Baroque music, especially the Baroque music we play, is a music very much given to the performer. There is a very famous phrase of Couperin that says the difference between French music and Italian music is that the Italian music is not definite. In Italian music, the success of music depends much more on the performer than on the composer, because it's very open to improvisation. Every time we are in front of an audience with Italian music, we must speak it differently. Now, there are a lot of musicians that don't feel this. You meet them after years and they're always playing academically the same thing in the same way, and they want you absolutely to stick to what you did the year before, 2 years before, 20 years before, 1 century ago. Well, with Jimmy, he really goes to the roots of this way of doing music, which was the real way of Vivaldi. All these great composers, Vivaldi, Albinoni, Tartini, great composers who were also great performers. And they were writing for themselves, and they were playing and performing everything differently, according not only their temperament, but the progress of civilization around them. And so we must not play the same music the same way, but we must also not want to make it absolutely different just because we must make it different. It must grow around us and inside us in the same way. And with Jimmy, I feel that he's so sensitive to this. He modernizes the musical language without forcing anything and without touching anything of the real composer image, as I think every great performer should do.